all available officers.
2 Denver officers down.
A neighborhood transformed into a war zone.
I've got an armed suspect in the basement. Shots fired. Send me everybody.
And a lot of unanswered questions.
Right now, we don't know exactly what has started this fire.
The flames are getting dangerously close to that other building.
Tonight, new video and insight you'll only get on Denver 7 about an attack that began with shots fired at police and ended in a sea of flames.
I thought, oh my God, I thought it was my house.
A blast tears through a Denver apartment complex. Several people are hurt, one seriously.
This explosion was so loud, it literally blew the art off the walls.
Denver 7's been working this story since the moment it happened, and we'll be with you until we find out what went wrong.
Did you guys get into an argument before?
Plus, a pregnant Colorado woman disappears with her 2 children in tow. We ask her husband about the last moments they shared before she vanished.
Denver 7 starts right now.
9 people are hurt, and a lot of questions need answering tonight after an apartment complex explodes in Denver. Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Teresa Marchetta.
And I'm Tom Mustin. Glad you're with us tonight. We've been bringing you updates from the moment that blast ripped through a building on Santa Fe near 4th Avenue. Denver 7's Jackie Crea begins tonight's team coverage for us. And Jackie, we understand investigators just wrapped up an update on what happened there.
Slick roads transform highways into demolition derbies.
Drove straight onto a hockey rink.
Cars spin out of control on the icy roads. Drivers have nowhere to go but join the pileup ahead.
Just started seeing everybody in front of me just all over the place.
And snow for nearly everyone.
It didn't come too quick for you guys?
No, not for me.
It was too hot.
The cold. I'm tracking the first major winter weather maker of the season.
Sirens provide the score to a monster storm.
So we've got pretty much no visibility, complete stop on I-70. We have a little incident.
Pileups, stall-outs, interstates turn to parking lots.
We have got blizzard conditions. There are all of these motorists, and we are one of them stranded here on I-70 East.
Wind cuts to the bone.
Some of the worst conditions I've ever experienced in my time in Colorado, which is my whole life, 34 years.
Grounds planes.
We are staying in contact with DIA. They tell us right now there's about 1,100 flight cancellations.
And turns off the lights for tens of thousands of people.
Our coverage of the blizzard of 2019 continues right now.
And we begin with an awful reminder of how dangerous these conditions can be. A Colorado State Patrol corporal has died after being hit by a car in Weld County.
Daniel Groves was outside his cruiser. He was trying to help somebody who had slid off the road when another driver lost control and slammed into him. And that driver was also taken to the hospital, is expected to be okay. High speed in bad conditions is being investigated as a possible factor.
And so many first responders like Corporal Groves are putting their own lives at risk tonight to keep Colorado safe.
They both died from smothering. These were his daughters.
Murdered by their father.
He had a desire for a fresh start.
Tonight, Chris Watts faces punishment for killing his family.
Prison is too good for you.
But refuses to say why he did it.
I don't think he will give an honest assessment of why he did what he did.
And tonight, the man who murdered his family will never know life outside of prison again.
Tonight, we do know a lot more about what happened inside that Frederick home back in August. Now, the things we still don't know can only be answered by Chris Watts himself. And today, the DA revealed for the very first time a motive, saying Watts murdered his pregnant wife, Shanann, and their 2 daughters, Bella and Celeste, because he wanted a fresh start. And we're going to get into that in just a moment. First, though, an autopsy showed the girls were smothered. Their mother, his wife, strangled.
And despite his original claim that Shanann murdered the children, prosecutors were clear today that this was all Chris Watts' doing. Denver 7 has been on this story from the first time we learned a woman and her kids had disappeared from their Weld County home. And we're not stopping now. Jackie Crea begins tonight's team coverage on what has been an emotional day from start to finish. Jackie.
I don't know in the back of my head. I hope they come back home.
But you know they're not.
The murders.
The motive.
She knew I was married, but I don't want to get her involved in this. I want to ruin her life.
And the cover-up.
The only way they could have left is in your trunk.
There's no way, because, like, I didn't just throw them in my truck.
You saw the interview first on Denver 7. And tonight, the moments that led Chris Watts to confess and what his mistress told investigators.
I really was under the impression that they were separated.
The interview goes on for hours, wavering between defiance and disbelief before finally a break. And the closest thing to a confession Chris Watts has ever offered for murdering his family. Good evening, and thanks for watching Denver 7. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. And for the better part of today, we have been going through those videos, chronicling the key moments that lead to Watts' arrest and eventual conviction.
And in a moment, we will bring you new revelations from Watts' mistress. But we begin with Jennifer Kovaleski with the interview that cracked the case. Jen.
There were a number of students that were shot.
Horror.
You told me your son was shot 3 times.
He said all of a sudden a guy pulled I believe a pistol, I'm not sure, out of like guitar case.
Heartbreak.
One student has died from the shooting.
And heroics.
An administrator heard the gunshots.
That security officer that went in quickly clearly saved lives.
Tonight, Colorado mourns the loss of a murdered student, and an investigation begins into 2 young men accused of targeting their classmates.
It has happened again, and it's happened to us tonight. A Colorado family is without their son. Douglas County deputies say the 2 people responsible for his death and for shooting several others are his classmates, and our community is in mourning tonight. And Denver 7 is committed to bringing you the stories of survivors and their families, as well as everything we've learned about the teenage suspects and what sources tell us motivated them to do this. This is something you will hear exclusively here tonight. My co-anchor Shannon Ogden begins our coverage from STEM School in Highlands Ranch. Shannon?
Good evening, Ann. Good evening, everybody. In this building just behind me, 8 hours ago, terror was unleashed, lives were altered, and 1 life was lost. And we will get to the 2 young men responsible for this in just a moment. But our focus tonight is on the students who were shot just because they went to school today.
And this has been a difficult day here in Colorado. A family has lost a son. Other students are lying in hospital beds tonight. Many children will never forget what they witnessed today. Now, tomorrow there will be a news conference starting at 6 a.m. And while it may provide more answers, we will continue to provide you information, hopefully some comfort along the way. Our team will be back with you in the morning. Thanks for watching. Good night.
He was a father fighting for his child's safety.
He's a very good actor. I think he convinced everybody.
Right up until the moment he murdered him.
That kid went through so much.
Tonight at 6, the system that allowed a Colorado man to manipulate and torment anyone in his path, and that cost a 10-year-old boy his life.
What did the court system, what did DHS do?
Nothing. Nobody did anything.
In one moment, they lost everything.
There's still days where it's, you know, we wish we had died in the crash too.
Now they're on a mission to ensure their parents' deaths were not in vain.
Drill into their driver's heads that like driving when you're fatigued is just as dangerous as like driving drunk.
Denver 7 starts right now.
Anthony Tesoriero had no business being in the same room as his son. He was a terror to his ex-wife and to anyone he saw as a threat. And in short, he was a walking billboard advertising dangerous, erratic behavior.
But despite countless court appearances and allegations, Tesoriero was given one final weekend to spend with his son before relinquishing custody. Then he took out a gun, shot his son, and then shot himself.
As Denver 7's Jennifer Kovaleski reports, this tragedy did not happen in the spur of the moment. This was months, maybe even years in the making.
And now we turn to our Cost of Care series. It's our commitment to exploring the ins and outs of our healthcare system.
And tonight's story could be our most important yet. Today, state lawmakers introduced their plan for a public option. Option is a key word here. You could choose to stay with the coverage through your employer. Now, this is not state funded. Plans would still be sold by private insurance companies, but they would do so with oversight from the Polis administration.
And ideally, the state wants to save you money by paying hospitals less for services. That's the reason you're seeing so many ads like this one.
But a state government option puts politicians in control of our healthcare system and could mean 3 million Coloradans with employer-provided coverage paying $1.5 billion in higher costs.
The group behind that spot and the Facebook ads you see here calls itself Colorado's Healthcare Future. They have spent more than $36,000 in social media ads in just the last week.
And that money's coming from companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Farm Bureau Colorado, and the American Hospital Association. So now you know why insurance companies and hospitals don't want this to happen, but should you?
Denver 7's Megan Lopez going 360 tonight with multiple perspectives so you can make up your own mind.
I think it's hideous. Children are afraid of it.
It fits the city of Satin. God, please right the wrong.
He's cool. I hope he always stays. Oh, that's nice. The story that inspired all these responses after the break.
The game.
The Buffs have unfinished business with an old rival.
We are going to be busy from open to close all weekend long.
And Colorado's ready to cash in. Our coverage of the weekend to end all weekend starts now.
Good evening. Glad you're with us tonight. I'm Shannon Ogden.
And I'm Ann Trujillo. The Broncos are back. The Rockies are on fire. And away games or not, sports bars are going to be packed tomorrow when CU takes on Nebraska.
So all this to say, this is shaping up to be a Hall of Fame sports weekend in our Colorado. Allison Mastrangelo is in Lincoln, Nebraska. Had a long-awaited renewed rivalry game.
And after that, we'll hear from meteorologist Stacey Donaldson about the chances of rain spoiling your plans. But we begin with Russell Haythorne in the thick of Broncos and Rockies fever. And Russell, businesses are loving this.
Well, the final frontier will be conquered by way of the West. A Colorado-based company has landed yet another contract to explore the heavens.
And down here on Earth, those dreams of the stars are lining our state's pockets and putting food on the table for many Coloradans. A recent study shows the space industry provides a rocket-fueled injection of $15 billion and 190,000 jobs into Colorado's economy. And for comparison's sake here, that is nearly half of what oil and gas does for us in dollars and cents, and $3 billion more than CU's campuses and hospitals.
Here's Denver 7's Jackie Crea with an inside look at the next great adventure.
The paychecks are getting bigger.
It's people's livelihood that they're playing with.
Traffic is worse than ever.
It's an ongoing battle.
And law enforcement can't agree on how to enforce the law.
What will happen to Colorado sheriffs who have vowed not to carry out this law?
They're going to face a situation that's going to be a real test.
2020 is going to be a busy year. We're getting you ready, 360 style.
Good evening and welcome to the end of the year 360 special. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. And over the next 30 minutes, we will bring you an all-sides approach to the stories set to dominate 2020.
And we'll have a little fun. Who knows, by the end, you may have a different appreciation for what goes on your plate. You might even be a better driver. Raymond High here.
That's right. And we are starting with a major change going into next year. As of New Year's Day, the minimum wage will rise in Denver. A process that will repeat annually until the lowest paid workers are making nearly $16 an hour. Denver 7's Jennifer Kovaleski is going 360.